Good morning. Today is October 23rd, 2023. Hope everybody is having a good day so far, and I hope the entire day is good. I want to pay tribute to a man uh, from who lived in my hometown of Waco for many years that I greatly admired. I didn't know him very well, but I did meet him a couple of times. His name was Clarence Edward Chase Sr. He was born in the city of Mart, which is another town in McLennan County, not too terribly far from Waco. He was born on September 14th, 1992. It's interesting that I was in Waco on September 14th, 2023 on business. And while I was there, that would have been that was the 30, he died September 14th, 1992. So that would have been the 31st anniversary of his death. And I was able to get a copy of his death certificate from the health department and also an obituary from the public library. But Clarence was born October 23rd, 1928. That was exactly 95 years ago. He was born in Mart. And his father was James Chase Sr. His mother was Zona B. Brunson. And he settled in Waco and lived there for many years. In fact, for most of his life. Clarence was a very well known teacher and coach. He was an African American, and during the years of segregation, he taught and coached at Carver High School. Now, Carver is in the city limits of Waco, but during much of its history, at least its early history, it was not part of the Waco Independent School District. It was part of the La Vega Independent School District. And La Vega is primarily Belle Meade, the Waco suburb. Now, I met him through another teacher and coach, Ben Young. It was either in 1969 or 1970, I forget which one. It was during the summer. I was working as a membership representative for the American Automobile Association, the AAA Motor Club. Ben Young, who was a very fine man, was already a member, and he referred me to Clarence Chase and a few other people. And I went by Clarence's house on Mahalia Drive in Waco and wrote him a membership. And we connected pretty good. I mean, we had interesting conversations. Among other things, he told me that he was involved quite a bit fraternally. He was a Mason and a Shriner. I was not a Mason yet. I was too young, but I had been a DMLA. And in fact, I was an active DMLA at the time. In the spring of 1970, I served as master counselor of Waco chapter, held a number of offices in this Masonic-sponsored youth organization. But the main fraternal order Clarence was involved in was the Improved Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks. Now, I knew a little bit about the Elks Lodge previously because in the 1960s, when I'd had a rock band called Noise Unlimited, our rhythm guitarist, Jeff Piercy, was the son of a member of the Elks Lodge at Elmont, Leon Piercy. We performed at the Elks Lodge on a number of occasions. But the Elks, there were two different groups of Elks, the Benevolent Protective Order of Elks and the Improved Benevolent Protective Order of Elks. Well, what's the difference? Well, the BPOE is predominantly white. The Improved Order is predominantly black. And for many years, they were not even on speaking terms. They are today. They get along fine. It was in 1973 at their national convention in Chicago. The White Elks voted to strike the word white from their membership requirements. And about the same time, the Loyal Order of Moose and the Fraternal Order of Eagles did the same thing. They did not do this for the most worthy reasons. All over the country, they were losing their liquor licenses because some communities would not give a liquor license to a private club that practiced racial discrimination. So, in other words, if you want to bring social change, threaten to cut off the booze. Well, uh, Clarence was very friendly, and he tried to give me a pass to visit the Elks Lodge, and it would have involved would have given me the opportunity to go and buy a drink at the bar. I explained to him I was under 21 at the time, uh, and the but I studied up on different fraternal orders. Of course, I eventually became a Mason and a Shriner myself. I've done much research on the history of the Elks, Moose, Eagles, Oddfellows, Pythians, and a number of other fraternal orders. I find these organizations very interesting. I have never joined the Elks. I don't know if I'll ever get around to that or not. I got my finger in so many different things. And the more organizations you join, that means the more time you'll be expected to spend. There's only 24 hours in the day. And of course, more dues you have to pay. But these organizations to me are very valuable. I'm glad I've lived to see the color bar come down both in Masonry and in the other fraternals. In 1974, a friend of mine who was a member of the Elks Daughters, the auxiliary group, we went to the Elks Lodge one night, and I asked if Clarence Chase was there. He was. Someone went and got him, and we talked for a few minutes. And I regret I didn't get to know him better than I did. But when he passed away on September 14th, 1992, there was 3 days later a article in the an obituary in the Waco Tribune Herald. Clarence C. Chase, Sr. of Waco, retired educator, coach, and auto salesman, died Monday at a local hospital. He was 63. Services will be at 11 a.m. Saturday at the George B. Young Auditorium on the Paul Quinn College campus. Bertram Bilton officiating. The burial will be at Doris Miller Memorial Park. I didn't take the paper at the time. Don't have time to read a newspaper every day, but it's very interesting. I was living in Waco at that time, and I was teaching at Paul Quinn College. Never, if I had known about the funeral, unless I had some prior commitment, I would have attended, but I didn't know about it. He was born October 23rd, 1928, in Mart, where he graduated from Anderson High School. After serving the U.S. Army for 3 years, he attended Paul Quinn, earning a bachelor's degree in education. While at Paul Quinn, he was co-captain of the Paul Quinn Tigers. He married Lola B. Donaldson on April 9th, 1952 in Waco. He first taught and coached for the Fernie Richardson School District. I'm very familiar with that because I lived in Teague for a couple of years. I married a lady from Fairfield. Fernie Richardson community is located between Waco and Mahia. I mean, between Teague and Mahia. And there's a community center there, which I think used to be the school. And when I was living in Teague and working with senior citizens, I remember taking my guitar there and playing for them at one of their meetings. Uh, Later worked, Clarence did, for the G.W. Carver High School in Waco as a teacher and coach until 1970. I believe the school opened in 1956 and closed with integration in 1970. J.J. Llewellyn was the only principal during that time. He was a very fine man. I worked with him at Paul Quinn College, and he was just always so full of life. And remember Mr. Llewellyn very well. But Clarence Chase first taught there and later worked at G.W. Carver High as a teacher and coach. At the time, he was transferred to La Vega High School, where he taught and was later appointed the first black athletic director for that district. By the way, Carver's later was bought by the Waco Public Schools. And it's my understanding they had already started classes for the semester at Carver. The football team had started their practices. Then they were informed that the school was closing and they were all being transferred to La Vega High School. From 1975 until 1972 until 75, Clarence was a teacher and student advisor for the Waco ISD. During that time, he also was a deputy sheriff with the McLennan County Sheriff's Department. He later worked at the Gatesville State School for Boys and the Waco State School before moving to Aquila High School in Hill County, where he was a teacher and coach until his retirement in 1984. After his retirement, he worked as an auto salesman at Steve Colvin Imports from 1988 until 1990. He earned Salesman of the Month award with the Silver and Gold Councils of Sales Leadership Awards for the dealership. I did not see him during this time, but I remember a friend of mine had one of his business cards. I think he had been by the car dealership, so I knew he was doing that. Survivors included his wife, a daughter, Vivian Diane Chase, a son, Clarence E. Chase Jr., three brothers, James Chase Sr. of Denver, Welton Chase of Pemberton, New Jersey, and Bobby Joe Chase of Fayetteville, North Carolina. So that family was scattered out. A sister, Vivian Chase Thompson of Waco, two grandchildren, and a step granddaughter. The family was at 2021 Mahalia Drive, and W.H. Little's and Sons Mortuary was in charge of arrangements. And so Clarence Chase, as I say, was a very respected. He was a very respected teacher and coach, and he served in the U.S. Army. He worked for the Sheriff's Department, and he sold cars, so he did a lot of things. He was a devoted family man, and he was an active fraternalist, being both a Mason and an Elk. And again, I wish I had known him better than I did, but Clarence was just the limited contact I had with him. He seemed like a very likable person. And I trust that the many students he taught, the many lives he impacted in such a positive way are still being blessed by his legacy and example today. Uh, God bless Clarence Chase. God bless everyone listening to this broadcast. Have a good day.